All right, we've got an update right now, ongoing live in the Menendez brothers case right now. There was a witness that faced cross-examination earlier from prosecutors. Let's listen into this lawyer as he speaks.
It's been quite an emotional morning for the family. For those of you who are in the courtroom or have read about it, they've, I think, at great personal expense, have bared their souls about the trauma they've endured. Interestingly, the generational trauma that the family, extended families, both the Andersons and the Menendez families have endured. I think it's astonishing to me that, and I think we talked about it on the record, that it's a unicorn-style situation where you have horrific crimes that nobody is walking away from, but also remarkable, almost unparalleled rehabilitation and redemption. The focus of an 1172, which is the resentencing hearing, because the public seems to get a lot of disinformation, frankly, coming out of the DA's office, but the focus of 1172 is on redemption. The focus of 1172, legislature has spoken that they want to encourage rehabilitation. That is the law. The law is you do not relitigate the facts of the crime as the DA wants to do, and at least if they were going to do that, they should probably try and get the facts correct, but that's because they've been watching disinformation themselves. The fact is that the family, all of the living members of the family, are unified in their belief that they should be released and released immediately. Obviously, for Terry, who is Jose's sister and Kitty's best friend, and for Joan, who is not only Kitty's older sister, but has proclaimed that she was almost a surrogate mother, and all of the extended family, they want them out, and they want them out now. And that's hopefully what the result that we're aiming for. I'll take a couple of questions.
Mark, the family was really thrilled, when they were on the stands that the brothers committed perjury back in the original trial. They were really hit hard with all the family members on the stand. Do you think their past perjury is going to come back to haunt them when the judge makes the resentencing decision?
It's interesting. It's a deflection, obviously, by the DA's office. I don't, as much as I object to the deputies in there, I think this new DA, as I said last week, I think he's got an unhealthy and unnatural belief that he needs to rehabilitate Jose. I don't know whose interest he's vindicating other than him and his dad's representation of Jose's business partner. It's interesting he wants to focus on tax fraud. Somebody just reminded me, this is a guy whose father, who was very well respected in this town, and him for a number of years, they made all of their money defending people accused of tax fraud, so the irony is delicious. But the fact remains that the so-called scripting and the other stuff, that was done 35 years ago. Once again, it's deflection. The code section, as the judge indicated this morning, and he read from the code, it's very clear as to what this is supposed to be about. This hearing, resentencing, is not to relitigate the facts. By the way, we're happy to do that in the habeas. We have a separate proceeding pending. We have a separate judge to litigate that. That's where all of these arguments that they want to deflect here are from. And you may ask, well, then why are they bringing it up? You didn't ask that, but I'll ask your follow-up. They're bringing it up because if they read the code section, if they are intellectually honest, they would understand that there are no two better candidates in the state of California right now for resent than Erik and Lyle Menendez, for all of the reasons that we talked about. If they were intellectually honest, they would admit, you know what, we've used these guys as proxies for politics. That shouldn't be. Just let's try to course correct and get back to why we're here. We're here for a resentencing. I'm talking slower for Kovacic, so I'll let you ask one question, but ask it slow, Robert.
So great for that. Will the brothers be able to address the court without being prosecuted?
If the judge, as I understand what happened this morning, is in all sentencings in the state of California, and mostly federal as well, most jurisdictions, at a sentencing, you can do what's called an allocution, which means you can address the court. If he recalls the sentence and then says, I'm now conducting the resentencing, they will be allowed to speak.
And can you explain what the judge talked about earlier? You were about to do that, but then you went off on a tangent. Can you explain the narrow issue that's being decided here?
The issue today on the recall of the sentence is very simple, was stated on the record. Is there a likelihood that they will commit a super strike, what I call the 7 deadly sins? There is zero likelihood. That's what the record reflects. Nobody has suggested that anywhere, anytime. That is the calculation. If that is the calculation, the sentence should be recalled, and then this afternoon when I come back out, we will discuss what the ramifications of that are. I'm going to take one more question. Then the promise was I'm not going to be harassed as I go to lunch.
Mark, are you pushing for the brothers to be released? Are you pushing for the brothers to be released without a parole hearing? And if so, is there a path to do that?
Yes, to answer the question was, are we pushing for them to be released without a parole hearing? Yes. What we are pushing for under the statute is a recall of the sentence, a resentence that is meaningful modification. That's the statute. The meaningful modification would be that they are get convicted of a lesser included offense, which would be voluntary manslaughter, which, by the way, half of the first jury voted for, and time served. Thank you. I'll see you this afternoon.
The judge today, will they speak?
Have a nice lunch. Thank you.
Oh, no problem. There's plenty of.
All right, a very interesting little sidebar from one of the prosecutors talking about the California Penal Code Section 1172, which is all about a resentencing pilot program from the county that they are in and where this jurisdiction is lying. And it kind of talks a little bit about how both attorneys on each side, both parties, would kind of participate in this resentencing pilot program. There's development and implement of a written policy. They're identifying, investigating, and recommend resentencing of an incarcerated person. So there's certain steps that each side has to get to meet the qualification of what he was talking about. And clearly, they are not anywhere near on the same page, either side. So more to come from the Menendez brothers trial and the resentencing that is ongoing.